Thank you all. Let me just grab, sorry, I think I've got my remarks coming up. Okay, great. Thank you all so much. First and foremost, I want to express my deep gratitude to everyone here who is coming in ahead of the cold this weekend to help us push for justice for victims of deepfake AI pornography. We have a collection of survivors and a bipartisan coalition here that is growing and so strong as we continue to fight for justice for survivors of deepfake AI pornography. I want to give a special thank you to my Republican co-sponsor, Laurel Lee, who has helped us push this across the line, and as we move this forward after unanimous passage in the Senate, hoping to get this across the line here in the House. And of course, I want to give my deep, deep gratitude to Paris Hilton, who is also here today, who came all the way from Los Angeles after a busy flurry out there to help push for the passage of the Defiance Act here today. I also want to recognize the courage and bravery of a young survivor, Francesca Manni, who is here with her mother, Dorota, who is consistently advocating on behalf of young victims across the country. I also want to give one more shout out to Omni Miranda Martone, founder and CEO of the Sexual Violence Prevention Association, who has been essential in crafting and advocating for this legislation. Since the public release of AI tools, we have seen an absolute explosion in AI-generated images used to sexually harass victims and children. Out of all deepfake images that AI has generated, over 90% have been non-consensual pornographic deepfakes. And out of those images, 90% of them have targeted women. As a prominent female elected official, I, as well as many others here, have spoken about our experience being targeted by AI deepfake pornography. Not only is this a coalition of legislators, this is a coalition of survivors of sexual harassment and in some cases abuse and assault. As a survivor of sexual assault myself, this resurfaces trauma for so many people across the country. And that is what it is intended to do. Because the creation of this content parallels the same exact intention of physical assault, which is about power, domination, and humiliation. And while these images may be digital, the harm to victims is very real. Women lose their jobs when they are targeted with this, teenagers switch schools, and children lose their lives. Congress has a moral obligation to stop this harm. We can stop this harm, and we can pass this legislation to hold the people responsible accountable. Right now, 1 in 8 teenagers knows a friend who has been targeted by AI deepfake harassment. Because if you are a middle schooler, and we should all be horrified by that, because if you are a middle schooler or a high schooler in the United States of America, you most likely know someone who has been a victim to this. And people's parents are waking up every morning in fear that their kid could be next. And while everyday Americans are terrified of this, corporations are finding new ways to profit from the creation of these deepfakes. So while we are all grateful that Congress has taken the tremendous step in passing the Take It Down Act to ensure that harmful content is removed from online platforms, we know that there is more work to be done. It is not enough to take down content. We have to give victims a civil right of action. Take It Down gave us removal, and Defiance will give us recourse and restitution. Once this bill is signed into law, and it will be signed into law, survivors will have the ability to hold their abusers accountable and seek financial and reputational damage for the harm they have caused. In times of extreme political polarization, I also want to underline that the partnership with Representative Lee and myself have formed, as well as the invaluable partnership of Senators Durbin and Graham in the Senate, I think it represents a real spotlight and possibility that in this time of deep division, there are still bright spots possible, and there's still progress that's possible here. Bicameral, bipartisan advocacy for legislation focused on delivering justice for the American people. So since we've made some massive steps forward, it's time for us to finish the job. And so I urge Speaker Johnson, which we have had positive and encouraging conversations with, to put this on the floor for a vote as quickly as possible. I want to thank you all again, and I am now proud to introduce the co-lead of the Defiance Act, Representative Laurel Lee. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Today I stand with my colleagues, with survivors, and with advocates to say that Congress must act to stop sexually explicit deepfakes from being used as a weapon against innocent Americans. I am proud to stand here as the co-lead of the Defiance Act, legislation that has already passed the United States Senate unanimously and now deserves swift action in the House. This bipartisan effort sends a powerful message. Congress recognizes the real harm caused by non-consensual, sexually explicit deepfakes, and we are committed to holding perpetrators accountable. I want to recognize a few of the people who are standing here with us. First, my colleague and partner in this legislation, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This has truly been a bipartisan effort from the very beginning. Her leadership has been essential. I also want to thank our other co-sponsors who stand here with us today in the House of Representatives who will help us advocate to get this across the finish line. I want to acknowledge the survivors who are here with us today, who will be speaking about their personal experiences. Your courage, your voices, your willingness to help us shape this legislation are the reason that we are here. And I also want to thank Paris Hilton for her advocacy and for using her platform to shine a national light on this issue. Your leadership has helped bring long overdue attention to the harm that victims face. Deepfakes are not harmless, and they are not victimless. They are deliberate digital forgeries, often sexual in nature, created to exploit, harass, and humiliate. The technology to make them is becoming more accessible and more widespread. And while the images and the videos may be fake, the harm they cause is very real. Victims have seen their reputations destroyed, their careers derailed, their mental health profoundly affected. And for too long, our laws have lagged behind this technology. Victims have been left without clear, consistent legal tools when their likeness is stolen and weaponized without their consent. The Defiance Act closes that gap. This legislation creates a clear federal civil remedy for victims of non-consensual, sexually explicit digital forgeries. It allows victims to hold accountable those who knowingly create, distribute, or solicit this material, or who recklessly disregard the lack of consent. It provides a meaningful statute of limitations for victims who might not discover this abuse right away. And it includes strong privacy protections, so survivors are not further traumatized simply for seeking justice. Passing the Defiance Act is about something very simple and very important: restoring dignity, restoring accountability, and restoring justice. It draws a clear line. Those who create and spread this material will be held accountable, and victims will finally have real protections and real recourse under the law. This bill shows what is possible when we put victims ahead of politics. I am committed to working with my colleagues in the House to see this legislation enacted so perpetrators face consequences for their actions and victims across the country finally have the protections they deserve. It is my great pleasure to introduce one of our strongest advocates. We are so grateful to have her with us here today, Ms. Paris Hilton.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I want to thank the bipartisan group of lawmakers standing beside me today, and thank you to every woman, girl, and survivor who's watching. You are the reason that I'm here. It's been 1 year since I stood at the Capitol and passed the Stop Institutional Child Abuse Act. That legislation was deeply personal because I was one of those children. A teenager taken from my home in the middle of the night, locked away, mistreated, and silenced. Coming back to the Capitol, I feel something new. Strength. I didn't always feel strong, but telling the truth again and again is how I found my power. And I want to use that power now to speak about something that I've never fully said aloud. When I was 19 years old, a private, intimate video of me was shared with the world without my consent. People called it a scandal. It wasn't. It was abuse. There were no laws at the time to protect me. There weren't even words for what had been done to me. The internet was still new, and so was the cruelty that came with it. They called me names, they laughed and made me the punchline. They sold my pain for clicks, and then they told me to be quiet, to move on, to even be grateful for the attention. These people didn't see me as a young woman who had been exploited. They didn't see the panic that I felt, the humiliation or the shame. No one asked me what I lost. I lost control over my body, over my reputation. My sense of safety and self-worth was stolen from me. And I've fought hard to get those things back. And I believed that the worst was behind me, but it wasn't. Because today, what happened to me then is happening now, to millions of women and girls in a new and more terrifying way. Before, someone had to betray your trust and steal something real. Now, all it takes is a computer and a stranger's imagination. Deepfake pornography has become an epidemic.